we'll get started. So we'll just start by welcoming everyone to another Down Under Trading voice chat and chart sharing. So we'll get into the charts. So we'll start with the first one of Bitcoin, and this is just on the daily view here. I'm on the Bybit chart, and on Bybit back on the 17th of August, we did have a drop to 24.2, which wasn't seen on all exchanges or the index. I think the index got to around, well, we'll have a quick look. I think it was around 25-ish. Yeah, so this is the index. It got to 25.2 on the drop, whereas Bybit was 24.2. So massive discrepancies. So going off the index chart, this would be a lower low, but zooming out, it's still a higher low, the June low. And then we'll go back to the only reason I use the Bybit chart is because I trade on Bybit. So I always recommend that you chart on the exchange that you use. The reason being is because you get these wicks on Bybit, so you need to chart to those wicks. Whereas on Binance, it might have wicked to here. And so when it comes down again, it might not get as low as 24,853. It might go to 29.2. And your chart should sort of represent that. So you need to chart to the exchange that you're trading on. But anyway, we'll have a look here. So pretty much on Bybit, the low came in at around 24,850. I was hoping to come and sweep this low over here at around 24,770. So I'll jump into my trading account and I'll show you guys. I've got the orders still sitting there. So I've got orders sitting from 24,683 to 24,542. And that's me laddering in. That's how I like to ladder in. Start off smallish. So that's around, I think, the position size of that's around 2.5 grand. And it's increasing all the way up to here. None of them have been hit. So I'm still sort of sitting out of a position on Bitcoin, which is fine. You know, we can try identify where the price is gonna go and where we want to enter. And if we don't, if it doesn't hit our entry, that's fine. You don't take an entry in haste. You move on and you look, all right, where's the price going to go to next? Could it still come down, or is it going to go up and then come down? So could I look for a short position? You don't get hung up on, bloody hell, I just missed my entry. I'm going to get in now, and you FOMO in, and you're likely to get wrecked. Because if we jump back to the chart, and we'll go to, say, the 15-minute chart. So on the 15-minute chart, we're actually coming up to resistance of the 50% level. It's a fair way off. Like, it's still $400 off. But if we look I'll go to the 1 hour because it'll show a little bit more. This is where we were down here. I was hoping to come to about here. And now we've got resistance up there, but we're only sitting at about 26K. So really, where it's sitting right now, it still could come back down and sweep those lows. Or it could say, no, I've already swept the lows. I'm going to go up. So it's really in the middle of no man's land right now. And both the 26,500 and the 27K level are important. It could reject from either of them. And I'd be keen to sort of see the reaction. Like, if it gets to the 50% level and pushes through to, say, 26.6, then I'd be saying, well, it's likely to go up to 27. But if it starts to get to about 26.4, 26.450 and gets a rejection, then it's likely that it's going to come back up, hit 26.5, and then heavily reject, which it would be a good opportunity to short. And it would be likewise with 27K. If it pushes through here to 26.6 or whatever it might be, it might even go straight to 26.9. Then it'll go a little bit sideways. It'll sweep up to 26.7 and then reject heavy. And it's at those when you see it go to 26.9, that's when you're like, all right, we're likely to be on here. It's not a guarantee, but we're likely to be on here. I'm going to set my limit orders around 26.950 up to around 27.50 with an invalidation at around 27.150 perhaps, or 27.1 even. So if you do get stopped, it's fine. But if you do get an entry and it sticks, you're going to reap the rewards for it, because ultimately I see Bitcoin coming down to 23,500. And I will just share something that I posted a couple of days ago. I'll see if I can bring it up in here first. So I drew this about a week ago, I think it is. It was on the 6th of September. I sort of thought that we were going to come down to around this area. I actually thought a little bit lower, but this is just where the mark fell. And I marked this out and I said, we're going to come up to here, 2,700, and then come back down just before the end of the month. And I'll show the timestamp for when I posted it. Just because I like to show proof. So the 6th of September, that's what it looked like back then. And that's what it looks like at the moment.
But it is pretty close to your graph, mind you.
Yeah, it is. Like,
that's like scary.
When I try to chart like this, it's not so much that I want it to line up with where my swings are. It's more the sentiment of it. So my theory is that it's going to come down and go just below this level here, and it's going to, because on most exchanges, their charts this week that I've got here on the Bybit chart isn't there. So they're going to look at this and think, wow, double bottom, you beauty. And then we're going to come up and the bull's back on. That's going to be the sentiment. But it's only going to get as far as 27. I honestly think that this week up can go as high as about 28K. I don't think it's going to exceed too much past 28K, but I sort of think it's going to fall into this range, and the sentiment's going to be the bull's back on. People are going to be piling into longs, especially on the alts, because they're feeling that the pain at the moment. All for it to come collapsing back down to this major level down here at 23,500, 23,600. And that's sort of where I see things going for the remainder of September. So I'm really keen to watch how this plays out. I'm getting people that are actually keen and interested joining them, and I want to give a reason to join them. So that's why I'm sharing that now. But yeah, that's sort of how I see Bitcoin playing out. I think these are key lows that I don't think will get broken this cycle. 15.5, 19.5. I was very coy on this one at 24,780 or whatever it is, 750. Main reason was because the high didn't break 32K. It looked like we were just extending this range. We weren't breaking this range. Then we broke back into the range, and that just sort of confirmed it. So when we were back here, I was calling for 23.8 back then, because that was the golden pocket back in these times, and I'm pretty sure I'll be able to show that to you. I'll just delete some of these, get them out of the way. Back when we were in this range here, I was calling for us to come down into the golden pocket, testing the trend line, and we stopped short of it. And I was thinking, geez, this just does not make sense to me. Like, it's sort of in no man's land. It didn't really correlate with anything. The only correlation was sort of with the tops over here, but I sort of expected a bit more technical analysis behind the push up from this point. And so I was always cautious when we were running up here, and we didn't break 32K. And whilst coming back down to 24K and under is a long way off. And I've got to admit, I wasn't saying it's going to definitely, it has to come down here. Or we might go have a look at sweat. I know that a lot of the audience that tunes into our videos are heavily invested in sweat, or want to know what's sort of going on, and some thoughts there. So looking at the daily, we've had 3 red candles in a row, and the candles are actually quite bearish. The reason being, this red candle here engulfs both the previous green candles. Then the next red candle engulfs the wick of the last candle. Typically, if things are just sort of going through the motions, you'll see the closes will be at the edges of the wicks, but when they start engulfing the wicks and going past them, it means that there's likely more red to come, which we've seen today or in the current 24-hour period. So it'll be interesting to see where this one closes, whether it's below the wick at 684 or lower. We want to stay above the 50% level if we want to see sweat continue its upward trend. If we get a daily close below, it's really not looking. It's not bad, but it's also not great. The reason why it's not bad is because we haven't really seen a healthy retrace. Perhaps since back in the middle of July, or start towards the end of July. And we want to see some of these levels tested. Like, they've only been tested once. The low was the low once. It got a little test here and then started to take off. This was tested once on a decent retrace. Well, you could consider this a test, but that's just a normal correction. This is almost like a change of trend, come down, it's found support, and then it's bounced up. And same here, when we came back to 0.00595, that was actually a really bullish bounce, that one. That one really impressed me. But now we're actually seeing a real test come into it. And I feel that it comes on the back of the postponement of the US launch. We were going great guns, and then the US launch got deferred by about a month, I think it was, and we've sort of been coming back down. The team did release some staking incentives, but it's just a little too much too late for me. They only did a staking, the 15% staking incentive last month, and now they backed it up with another one. So it was a bit too soon. But in any case, pumping on news or news of utility when there isn't liquidity in the space, it can't be sustained. It's only going to go up for so long. It could be the most bullish news. It could be, going from testnet to mainnet, but it's only going to go up for so long before it comes back down, because there isn't the liquidity in the space to sustain the run. And I'm a holder of sweat, and watching it come down in red, I don't like to see it, but I have to be realistic. I have to be realistic about it. And at the end of the day, it, the best news can come out, but it's just not. There's not enough money there to keep it going up. But in saying that, if we can manage to stay above this 50% level for the rest of September, which be a big struggle because we're nearly there already. But in the off chance we can stay above it, I can see us coming up to the 1 cent mark come the first couple of weeks of October, closer to the US launch. I think it will fade from there though. Unfortunately, it's just the way that the new news events or even utility releases have happened in the space. I haven't found a token that has sustained its gains, and we can look at a couple. We'll go to one of my favorites because it's the best example, XRP. It allegedly wins a case against the SEC. I don't think it completely won. Bang, straight up to 95 cents more or less. And it's already lost 50% of that back into the range where it was before that. And that wasn't a simple pump and dump news. Like that's a massive win for crypto. No denying that. But there just is no liquidity in the space to maintain the pumps based on news. There will be one day when the bull run start or the bull market starts for alts, but unfortunately, it just isn't yet. What's another one we can look at? Render is one. I'm not sure it's pumped so much on news. Oh, I've got a few fibs going on here. I was doing a lot of scalping on Render for a little while. Render has actually maintained some of its gains, but from where it was, like it hit a low 0.37 more or less, and its high in this past few months got up to $3. But from $3, it's lost 50% of that already. I'm not sure if it's based on news, the pump, but there's little alts that have managed to hold their value. And that was just a nice little channel that I had for Render. And as soon as it sort of broke through the channel, got a little pump up, $2.40, and then it's just faded. And now it's just fading away. I actually like Render for the upcoming cycle. I think it's going to go really well. I wish I actually bought something back here because I don't think it's going to come back down to this region. Could come back down to maybe about $1. But yeah, I don't think it's going to come back down to the 50 cents sort of area. It's going to struggle to get there. We'll have a look at Total 3 and what's happened in Total 3. Had a decent dump in the middle of August, and then we had a lot of sideways action. Now it's sort of coming back down to test these levels again. Had its lowest close since back in June. I still think we're going to make our way downtown to around. It'll be somewhere around here. I hope it's not too much lower. 230 billion. That's that's a fair way down. That's, a third from where we are at the moment. It would be just looking at the lower low from the cycle. It's around 287. No, so somewhere around the 260 billion mark would be good. Oh, not great for people that are invested, but from a cycle perspective, this low is going to get broken, in my opinion. How much lower? I hope that's not too much. I sort of look at this as the 17.5K low that Bitcoin produced in June last year. And now I'm trying to find where is the November low of Bitcoin going to fall in the alt market. So I'm thinking it's going to be around in this area. And then we should see a nice spring out of it. But it is looking like the same. I posted this up a fair while ago. I can't remember the exact date. But it is looking similar to what happened back. I'll go to the weekly. It's be a little bit clearer. What's happening here is looking similar to what's happening here. We're not having a big capitulation event like what happened when FTX collapsed. But what we're experiencing is capitulation by time. So there's two different types of capitulation. You can go down really fast in a short period of time, like November, or you can just bleed over time. And what that means is, or what the feeling that you get during this period is, we've been going down for so long, it surely cannot continue to go down. We're going to go up at some point. Let's buy. But what happens? Keeps going down, keeps bleeding. You don't get big drops, but you get lots of little drops, and you eventually make it to the point where it starts to flip trend. And because you end up being so used to it going down, by the time you get to this point and it's making lower lows, and the feeling at this point starts feeling like it's just going to keep going down. Why should I invest? And it's at that point when the trend starts to flip, because the general population are thinking, why am I going to throw my money at something that all it does is go down? Meanwhile, the institutions and whales are like, yeah, that's exactly what we want, because we want to be the only ones picking up at this price, because those people that are saying, why would we buy it this time? They're going to buy it up here. They're going to buy it when we're at 500 billion. We're going to buy it when it's at 1 trillion, because at that point it's going to be going up. It's going to be going up. It's going to be going up. And people that were back here saying, oh, why would I continue buying because all it does is go down? They're going to be up here saying, all it's going to do is go up. Let's buy. And then all of a sudden, bear market starts again. And unfortunately, that's the psychological game that gets played. If you're DCAing now, in the long run, if you're going to be hodling, and that's your strategy is to just DCA and then sell when it's up here, you're going to make money. Don't get me wrong. But if you wait for these lows to get taken out and you start to see a little bit of support get formed, or it's going to go down, and then you start to see it evening out a little bit, almost like a half moon. When it starts the half moon, that's when you start thinking, this could be bottoming out here, because it's also a time game. It can only go down for so long before it has to start going up. In the alt market, it's hard to see because there hasn't been enough time go past. But in Bitcoin, bear markets only go for about 12 months. The bear market is from the high. So that was on the 11th of December, 2017. to the low, which was the 3rd of December 2018. That's the bear market right there, 12 months. Then you go bull market, starts at the low, which I think we said was, doesn't really matter, it's only a week. We'll go 10th of December 2018 until the all-time high. 1st of November 2021. So that's more or less 3 years, we'll call it. They get 1 year a bull, 1 year a bear, 3 years a bull. Using round numbers. And we go from 8th of November 21 to the 14th of November 22. That's 12 months again, more or less. From high to low, that's your bear market. Now we're in a bull market. So based on history, and we can go back through other cycles, but they're all pretty much the same. Bear market lasts around 12 months. Bull market lasts roughly around 3 years. So that should take us out 3 years to November 2025, more or less. Give or take a couple of weeks. But you want to be selling in this part. You don't want to be selling in this part. I mean, if you get this part, it's not the end of the world. You're going to be making money. But that's where we try to aim into that sort of 5-6 week period. If we can sell in there, we're doing well on our spot holdings. We'll go and have a look at Matic actually, because this is one I've spoken about a little bit. So Matic, for me, it looks in trouble. We can see it made a low at around 50 cents back in June. This was also a support level back in May of last year. And we are right at the button right now. If this week closes below the 50 cents level, it's not looking great for Matic. It's a long way off, but I think if it can close the week below 50 cents, it's going to be looking at this 31.5, 32 cent area. That's its next level of support. It doesn't have a lot of structure below 50 cents. So if you're looking to buy into Matic, I'd be holding off for the moment. You should be able to get at least about a 30%, 40% discount within the next, I'd say probably within a month. Looking at the charts, it's extremely bearish. It can run, and it can run real quick, but it can also drop just as quick. If we go from the low here, was in June, to this buy in Feb, so that's 8 months. In 8 months, it did a 32. It did a 5x in 8 months, but it's also lost. It went from $1.50 down to 50 cents in the same time. It's not. If it can close below 50 cents, it's not going to take much of a push to get down here. And if it breaks the 31.8 level, it's that 31.5 cent level. We'll just have a look. We'll get a chart up that shows a bit of history. Right, that's the 31.8 support there as well. There isn't even support back in 2020 below 32 cents. Like the support levels are down at 5 cents, which is crazy. I don't think it's going to get down to 5 cents. So it's going to have to find some support down here, maybe around the 25 to 20 cent area, if it can get through here. So there's a lot of downside for Matic. It's not looking great. I hate being bearish. I wish I could be bullish on some of these alts, but it's just not the market for it. They're the riskiest asset when it comes to investing. And with it, they're not going to steal liquidity from anything. So they really need liquidity coming into people's hands to be able for these alts to start flourishing and running. We touched on XRP, I think. Look at ADA. There's ADA. So ADA is another one that's unfortunately in a bit of trouble as well. We had the big drop back here in May. That was May last year. Pumped up. That's right. We had the big drop at the start of June, down to around 20 cents. And then we started ranged for a couple of weeks, and then we had the big pump. And I actually caught the top of this pump with a short. Unfortunately, I traded with some emotion. I think it was around here. And I closed my position. Traded, I closed it. But anyway, shit happens. And it's just been bleeding ever since. So this 25 cent level was actually very key for ADA, because the 25 to 30 cent range, that's what it was sort of bouncing between back in here. So when it fell back into the range, you sort of hope, or if you're an investor in ADA, you sort of hope that it's just going to maintain this sideways movement in the 25 to 30 cent range. However, it closed, I'm pretty certain. I'll just check on Bybit. Pretty certain that it closed the week below. Yeah. Closed the week below 25 cents. Not a great start. It only just closed. They could bounce back into the range, but if it maintains the next day or two below 25 cents, that's not great. Then you can expect the range to start being 25 cents to around 21 cents for the time being. We'll find the ADA USD chart. Now we start looking for support. Where could ADA go? So around 15 cents looks like a pretty good level. You got this resistance here that was flipped to support over here. It's also tested on this massive drop here in Feb 2021. I'd sort of suggest maybe 15 cents could potentially be a floor for ADA. Yeah. I doubt that we're going to go down this low. You know, not 9 cents. I've heard of crazier things, but I really struggle with these sort of levels. You probably see like Ben Cowan and people like himself, they are quite bearish and talk about drop 90%. It can drop 90% again, but I'd sort of be more inclined to say 15 cents is probably more likely a bottom area for ADA than around 8 cents. It just seems too big of a drop for me this far into the market. If we're at this level back in like November last year, which we weren't far off actually. Look, it still could be an option. I wouldn't be writing it off 9 cents. I wouldn't be banking on it though. I'd definitely be, if I was wanting to invest in Cardano, 15 cents would be my target area. And I'd be mindful of 9 cents and have dry powder just in case we got there. If we didn't get there, it would be fine. One thing that I did want to go over was I wanted to talk about Fibonacci levels. Are you familiar with them, Nick?
No, I haven't figured them out yet.
Are you interested in learning about them? Is it something that you wouldn't mind learning a bit about?
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah.
All right, yeah, I'll run through them. Oh, sorry, Muji, sorry, Zenon. I didn't realize you guys were here, guys. But welcome. What is? Sorry, Muji. What is the 50% level for sweat? I'll jump in and just have a look at that first. So when I'm talking the 50% level, we use fibs to draw it. Essentially, it's 50% from the bottom of your drawing to the top of your drawing. So when I'm looking at, I'll delete this. Chuck on the magnet. So I'm on the monthly view for sweat at the moment. This is the all-time low. This is the current high at 932, roughly. So the current, well, let's change a little bit. The 50% level is 0.0067. Above the 50% level, you can expect continued uptrend momentum. Once you start falling below the 50% level and closing below on, say, a daily close or a weekly, then you can expect a downtrend to start happening or commencing. That's really basic of how you can draw Fibonacci levels. But I'll go into shorter time frames. Because you can draw fib levels over multiple time frames and have like 5 or 6 fib levels running at the same time. Get rid of 886 because we don't really use that one too much. All right. So we're on the 1 hour time frame. I might go out to 4 hours actually, just because it doesn't seem to have too many ebbs and flows or ups and downs. It likes to do a lot of running in one direction at any one time. That can sort of be seen from the lows. So this is the lows on the screen at the moment. Does a lot of running up, not too many pullbacks. But then when it runs down, it likes to run down sideways, a little pump up, and then continue running down. It does make it a little bit harder with sweat, but we'll use it anyway. So wet. So when you're drawing fibs, you want to go from a low to a high. That's the aim of the game, but not any low to any high. So at the moment, we've got the higher high here at 919. The previous high was here, roughly 771, we'll call it. So now we want to find what's the lowest point between these two high levels. And we come down and we've got the 595. So that's where we're going to draw our fib. And this is going to be what I refer to as a local fib level. I normally just freehand these because the levels don't have to be 100% perfect, but I'll use the magnet for this because if I'm teaching, it's probably better to be a bit more accurate. Now we're going to have an overlay of fibs, and it can look a little bit confusing, but it's good because you can see where you can have correlations. So a correlation that we've got here is the 50% level of our lower low. So I've just gone back to the weekly. Our lower low to our current higher high. And we've also got the 786 level of our local fib that we've just drawn on the 4-hour chart. Which goes from there to there. It doesn't mean that this is definitely going to be a bounce area, but when we're trading and we're day trading, we try to find confluences within our TA that can substantiate a good trade or give us a little bit more reason to take conviction in our trade. When it comes to alts, the 786 level is a fairly critical level. Alts love running to the 786. I don't know why, but it's just something that alts love doing. They typically bounce off them or reject off them. So to see the 786 and the 50% level more or less line up would give me some confluence around this level for taking a long position. So one thing that we could do would be, all right, so let's say it does bounce from there. Where could it go? What could come as resistance? So rather than drawing fibs based on data that's already happened, we can then start drawing fibs to sort of project, all right, where's the price going to go and where am I going to look to take profits? So we'll pretend that it's going to hit the 786 level. And I know it's starting to look a little bit messy now, but these three levels up here are what's just been drawn based on the high, whatever it is, and bouncing off this level down here. So we end up with 791, the golden pocket, and 786. So I'd be looking to TP at this horizontal line here, which I'll touch on in a minute. It's not a fib level, but I'll touch on that in a minute. I'll TP some at the 50% level, some at the golden pocket, some at the 786, and then leave some to run. We'll just delete some of these so it doesn't look so messy. This 771 level was the neckline and resistance line that I'd drawn. I'd initially drawn it just after this high because we came down, it got tested, rejected heavily, or was supported heavily, I suppose, bounced up, and then we pushed through it. Then it came back up and tested it, and it was flipped to resistance before we had the massive rejection down to the all-time low. Then when we came up, we tested it, and we rejected again. Oh, this could be a neckline. And sure enough, it was. And then we saw the pump up. So when we came back down, it was tested, bounced again, and now we broke through it again. So this is a key level. It's unrelated to fib levels. It's just a key support resistance level that Sweat struggles with, whether it's struggling to push through to lower the price or pushing through to raise the price. I've got a feeling it might have something to do with, or it could have something to do with the seed round or initial offering. I've got a feeling it was around this level. One of the guys might be able to confirm that. But yeah, it's just definitely a key level that we just want to watch. Whenever we drop below or drop above, it's a struggle to go the other way. And it doesn't normally do it on the first attempt, as can be seen here. We tried to get through, rejected. Then we pushed through. We tried to come back down past it, rejected. And then we came back down past. That's sort of where we sit with Sweat and where we sit with fibs. I do have a bit more in-depth information around fibs, but we might save that for another time.
Yeah.
Are there any? Yeah. Did you have any questions about fibs?
No, it's all right. I have seen another chart as well where before I start selling any of my tokens, or may just start selling any of them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm talking about taking profits on like using fib levels, I'm also talking about like day trading, and like for instance, these I've played around with the numbers on mine a little bit, but your normal fib levels are the 236, 382. I rarely use them, and then you got the 0.5, 618, 786. I only really use those three. But when I'm talking about using the fib levels, I normally front run them. I want to make sure I lock in the profits, even if I get a little bit less. It's no big deal for me. I'd rather say I took a short up here. I'd much prefer to TP, and I've only freehand this. That's why the number's a bit different. But I'd much rather front run this and TP at say 00681 and make sure I lock in the profit. Then wait for it to go through, and it might bounce early. There might be people wanting to long here that are going to front run. I just use these as sort of indicators. But when it comes to long-term investments, it's a little bit more different. You can't really you don't want to really just rely on fib levels for long-term investments. You want to look at time as well. So I was talking about the bull and the bear markets, with bull markets being about 3 years, and bear markets being around 1 year. So like for Bitcoin, my personal, not sure if I've got it in this or not. I might have got out to a month actually. So if we're looking at 3 years, it would be November 2025. Around here. So 128K roughly. Yeah, around 128K would be a level I'd be looking at based on, I think this trend line's drawn on a weekly. Could be on a daily, perhaps. I've driven this trend line previously from the 2017 bull market to the 2021 bull market. And then you can also do fib levels and see what happens. Again, these are just freehand. when we're using fib levels in this instance, we use the extensions. So the 1618 level is one that I like to use. So the 1618 comes up at around 102K. So I'd be looking for the bull market for Bitcoin, for taking some profit off the table between 102 and 130K. We'll call it between 100 and 130K. You can use fib levels to coincide with trend lines and time, and then you find your sort of area where you want to look at taking profits. With my Bitcoin, I'll be taking some profits off the table when we hit around 69K, the prior high. Because who's to say that, we hit the prior high and then we might come back to 42K, and then I could, buy some more at 42K and then go up and sell a bit more at 85 or 90K, and then it might come back down a little bit.
Yeah, that's mainly what I'll be doing with mine. I'll be taking profit as it's going up. And probably leave a small bag just to see what happens with it. But I'm not going to be greedy and say, oh, I might wait a few more months to see what happens, just in case it bottoms out and comes back down again. I don't see the point of that. I missed out on XRP with the news pump. I took 80 quid out. I was 500 quid in profit. I thought I'll take 80 quid out, spend it on some other coins. And then yesterday I went back into my DCA, so I'm just thinking, why did I not take the whole 500 quid out, buy back in now, and I'd have a hell of a load.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I think when it comes to these long-term investments, with alts, it's difficult, but with Bitcoin, it's a bit easier. The timing is more important than where you're cashing out. 3 years for a bull market for Bitcoin. I plan to be out of Bitcoin by around September, October 2025. I don't want to run the risk of running it to the ninth hour. I'd prefer to be out early and maybe, lose 10 or 20 grand in the overall price, then potentially lose a hell of a lot more when it starts running down quickly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can imagine when it is finally over and starts coming down, it'll plummet.
Yeah. And when we're starting to get up to these levels, I don't want to be worrying about taking profits and closing my long-term investments. I want to be looking at shorting these markets. That's where my focus wants to be. So if I can get out here, a month earlier, 2 months earlier even, and be planning for, all right, where's Bitcoin looking likely to top out, and what's my strategy going to be? And I can put all my focus into that and not miss those opportunities and write it down. That because you can make just as much, if not more money, shorting the market than what you did on the run up. It's the exact same.
Yeah.
So that's how I like to look at it. It's a bit like as we're coming down into these lows, I'm looking, all right, we're coming down. I need to start looking to buy, start looking to long. What's my strategy? So I've been DCAing my spot position this whole way in a set and forget portfolio. It automatically happens. I don't even watch it. It just automatically happens. The only thing that I do is I'll adjust my DCA amount if we go up to 30K or whether we're down below 25K. It's the only thing that I adjust is the amount that I DCA. But otherwise, it happens automatically. But my long positions, that's all. That's my main focus, is finding long positions to ride this wave up. Were there any charts that you guys wanted me to sort of go over specifically, or? Virgie, thanks for providing the picture of the seed round and private round. Oh, as a public sale was 7 cents. I think I remember you sharing this before. I knew I remember, not 7 cents, 0.007. I'm pretty sure I remembered seeing it somewhere. But,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
basically before TGE, when I think when we need to list it as a public round, then this was published back then.
yeah, like it's only a small. There was only a small amount fundraised, but for some reason, that 0071 level, it just seems to be a really key level for Sweat, which is interesting. But was there any charts or questions that anyone had, or anything that anybody would like me to go over?
I just have one question in terms of unlocks, token unlocks. I know that there is a website called Token Unlocks where you can go and search, but it only tells you your upcoming event, but not any other future events. Is there any other website that actually tells you the full unlock schedule?
To be honest, I'm not too sure. The token unlocks that I post up on within the Discord are just off Twitter, from what other people have sort of posted. But I'll look into it and see if there is something available. It is something handy to know, like, you know, there's a big ape unlock coming up in.
Yeah.
It's almost at $1 last I checked, or maybe it was in the recent dip. I'll just go into this chart, whatever.
Token Unlocks did a very good document on ape unlocks for this year. A similar unlock happened in March with 11% of circle supply to be unlocked. It gives a good insight of how what is unlocked this year and how price change. So if anyone's interested, I'll post a link in your channel.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I find the unlocks are interesting, like depending on the token, but I find that quite a few tokens actually pump leading into the unlocks, and then the unlocks happen, and they might pump a little bit more, but then they start to fade. Which it's like, are the people that are receiving the unlocks pumping up the token so they can then sort of sell at a higher price for longer? I don't know what the answer is, but yeah, it's definitely interesting how it works.
They've been unlocking every month for past six months or so. So that explains why the price action.
Yeah, it's been going down since the start of the year, really, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But it's almost at what it launched at. Yeah, nearly. And then, like, it's crazy what some of these tokens do on launch at the moment. Cyber's another one. You know, it went absolute bonkers, up to $17.50, and it's lost a third. It's down to a third of that price already, or less. It's almost back to what it was trading just after launch. But this is all just driven on funding. The funding was maxed out for shorts paying longs. When it gets maxed out, like, people can make so much money just based on the funding rate. It's ridiculous. That's why I don't even bother getting into these positions, like, because there's that much money that they just keep buying and buying and buying and buying and longing, and that's how you get these crazy figures. Another one that I like is WorldCoin. What have I done? You know, on launch, this thing got up to like $5, and it's got a crazy amount of tokens. I can't remember exactly. It's either 10 billion or 20 billion tokens, something ridiculous. And it's like, this is a brand new coin, and it's controversial in how it works, the utility of it. There's no way it's going to sustain this price. It has to come back down. And it has. It's just been bleeding and bleeding and bleeding the whole time. But actually, one thing that I did want to look at, which we don't normally look at, is the Dixie. Now, I don't know how much awareness you guys have about the Dixie or know about the Dixie and what it sort of means.
No.
So the Dixie basically determines the strength of the US dollar. It's predominantly based around the value of the US dollar against the euro. The euro makes up around 70% of the valuation, and then the remainder of the valuation is based on other major currencies in the world. I think it's the British the pound, the Canadian dollar, and there's a couple others that are pushed into this. But essentially, when the Dixie value goes up, the price of the euro against the US dollar goes down. And as a flow-on effect of that, typically stocks will follow suit and go down as well, because it means that there's more money in the US dollar, which is what puts the dollar index up. So it is something that's interesting to watch, because when you start seeing lows getting made, then you can start assuming that a bounce is going to start happening. And with that, the euro is going to go down against the dollar, and the stock market is also likely to start retracing. And as being the riskiest investment asset, alts or crypto as a whole is likely to retrace as well. So we can look at the Dixie to sort of determine, all right, what's going to be the general consensus for the next couple of months, because it makes big moves over long periods of time. If we go out to a weekly, you can sort of see, like, this is May 21, and it was slowly grinding up and up and up and up and up. And it took 18 months without any significant retraces for it to top out. And now we've grinded back down. So now we're going to start going back up again. And same sort of deal, 50% level. I think it's going to remain below the 50% level. We could sort of start going up to maybe 110. But overall, what happens at this? But I like to look at the economic world based on the property cycle, and the property cycle goes for 18 and a half years. We're coming towards the end of that cycle. And what happens when we come towards the end of the property cycle is the US dollar or the US dollar index typically drops around 20 to 30%. So based on that, if we're coming towards the end of the property cycle, it is unlikely that we should expect the US dollar index to make a higher high. So we need to sort of identify, all right, where is it going to make a lower high? And so we sort of look at around 110, or for me, between 110 and 107 is that lower high sort of zone. And what can we look at to sort of try and maybe make some confluence with this? Well, the euro makes up 70% of the valuation of the Dixie, so we can look at euro versus USD. Now, when the Dixie goes up, the euro goes down. So we need to start looking up, where can the euro go to? what levels do we think it can really bounce from, or could potentially put in a higher low? Because if we're looking for a lower high on the Dixie, we should be looking for the inverse reaction of that on the euro. The euro loves the 786 level when it's on a downtrend. I've done a fair bit of back testing on this, and that's just something that I've come up with. So I think that while the Dixie will go to around 107, 110, the euro will come down to around parity, and then it'll bounce. I don't think it's going to come down and make a lower low. Purely based on the property cycle, what happens with the Dixie, the movement of the Dixie, like it's gone straight up with little retrace. It's had one now, but it's not a big retrace given where it came from. And it's due for a 20 to 30% pullback within about 2 years' time. So it might take us a while to get there, but that's sort of where I'm looking that to go. And that'll mark not the bull market, but the bull run. And when I say bull run, so we had a look at this. Bull market started here. That's the bull run. When it just goes straight up, more or less, you do get these pullbacks, and they might look small, but these pullbacks are actually quite large. They just look small because of all the green that's going on. If we go from the high, I don't think I've got the exact high. The high to the lows, that's a 30% pullback, which is fairly significant. But when you're just going straight up, you don't even notice a 30% pullback anymore. They just disappear into thin air. If we got a 30% pullback today, people will be falling over having heart attacks on Twitter. But in the bull run, don't even recognise it. But yeah, so that's sort of where my thoughts are on the Dixie. I just thought I'd throw something out there, a little bit of a curveball, I suppose. Definitely something to keep in mind and to look at maybe once a week, once a month. It's not something you have to watch on the daily. Definitely something to be cautious of and aware of. And it's interesting, the movements in the Dixie, when the Dixie is going up and the stocks are going down or crypto is going down, and you see the currencies are going down or up in reverse to the Dixie. It starts to make a bit more sense, and you can start to see some correlations between the different charts, and it starts to build a picture. It starts to paint a picture of what's happening, what could happen, and help you to increase your probability of being correct in your analysis. So I think that's about that might be about all from me tonight.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
Unless there's I've missed some things in here. Thanks, Muji, for posting the unlocks. I'll chuck that up in our Discord. So I'm just reading the token unlocks on WorldCoin. Wow, it's increased 32% since TGE. That's crazy. That's unreal, Reggie. By 32%. It's no wonder that the price has declined like it has. But no worries, mate. Appreciate you and the time that you put into this. I think All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate you guys being here and listening to me ramble on and go through the charts and whatnot. I hope that you guys benefit from it. We'll try to. I think our next plan is to do a Twitter space. It might maybe later this week, but probably next week, I think. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your day in whatever part of the world that you're from, and we'll speak to you next time.